Florida's water management districts are committed to finding new ways of meeting the demand for fresh water. The boundaries of two water management districts, the South Florida Water Management District and the Southwest Florida Water Management District, meet in Polk County. Together with the St. Johns River Water Management District, these districts are studying whether the Floridan aquifer, the major source of drinking water in Central Florida, is reaching its sustainable limits of use and exploring the need to develop supplemental sources of water. Joining us in the studio today to discuss the past, present, and future of Florida water is Danny Kushmer, Government Affairs Manager with SwiftMud, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, Lynette Reynolds, Project Manager, Trisect, and Bill Graff, Intergovernmental Representative of the South Florida Water Management District. Welcome one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny, let's start with you. Could you provide us an overview of the Southwest Florida Water Management District, as everybody knows or commonly refers to it as SwiftMud?
Commonly referred to as SwiftMud, and we're fine with that because we're government and we love acronyms. So, well, the district was created in the 60s as a result of Hurricane Donna. The Army Corps of Engineers created the Tampa Bypass Canal to alleviate flooding in downtown Tampa. And then the district was created as a special taxing district to manage that bypass canal. So originally as a flood protection. And then over the years we added to our areas of responsibility, including water supply, water quality, and natural systems. We're governed by a 13-member governing board appointed by the governor. And we cover an area from Levy County to the north, Charlotte County to the south, and then in the heartland we go down into Highlands County as well. So basically our role is to ensure there's enough water supply for all reasonable and beneficial use going forward as well. That's really our focus today, I think more so in Polk County.
So that area encompasses how many counties?
It's all or part of 16 counties and about just under maybe 6 million people. And as you said in the opening, we cover most of Polk County, and then South Florida has the remaining side of Polk County.
So you started out as essentially like a flood protection agency, and it's just grown from there.
It has, and it's grown through legislation as well, and through federal legislation. The Clean Water Act in the early 70s added the element of water quality and water supply. And then in the 80s, the environmental resource permitting through Florida legislature created really the surface water management. So if you want to build a neighborhood, you got to come to the district and get a permit to ensure the amount of water is leaving your area is not more than what it was before.
Right, and the water management districts throughout Florida, they're under the DEP?
They are, if there is a parent agency, that's yes, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection would be our parent, correct.
So could you provide us some examples of some of the water projects that you manage, what they're intended to do and their benefit?
Well, sure, and with our district, with SwiftMud, what we do a lot of cost share programs. So we have a cooperative funding initiative, meaning that if a local government wants to create a stormwater system to improve water quality, if they want to create something that's going to alleviate flood protection, reuse water, to expand their reuse water, which would reduce groundwater needs, then if it meets our core mission, we'll help cost share that in the amount of 50% funding. And so some projects for a big example would be like the Tampa Bay area and Tampa Bay Water, a regional entity that the district has spent almost $500 million over the last 20 years, creating a very diverse system, surface water, groundwater, there's reservoirs, there's desalination, resulting in about a 50 million gallons a day reduction in groundwater pumping. So that's a big picture item of what the district has helped create in projects working with partners. So we take district money, which is tax dollars, partnering with local community tax dollars as well, and double that money in creating projects.
Well, let's discuss the project a little closer to home. We were discussing before we went on air the Lake Hancock restoration in the Peace River project. Could you give us some details on that?
The project is, and I've talked to a lot of folks over the past years. It's been going on for about 15 years through acquisition of land and to a completed project. And it was designed to increase the level of Lake Hancock by 2 feet, 1.5 feet roughly, and then release that additional water during the winter months into the Peace River, because the Peace River was running dry in the winter months during the dry periods of time. And this allowed us to maintain will allow us to maintain a minimum flow in the Peace River. At the same time, if anybody's ever seen Lake Hancock, they know it's pea green. It's not the prettiest lake. It's beautiful from a distance.
Gators love it.
The gators love it and the tilapia love it. But the water quality is poor, and it's through years of neglect. Are we going to improve the water quality? Well, we've improved the water going in, but we need to improve the water coming out. So we've created a 1,000-acre wetland on the south side of the lake. So the water going in the Peace River now goes into this wetland system before going into the river. So we're increasing the flow of the river, and we're improving the water quality, which ultimately drains down into the Charlotte Harbor, which is an estuary of national concern.
So it benefits Lake Hancock, the watershed, all the way from Polk County to Charlotte Harbor.
About 140 miles, yes, sir.
Now, what was the dollar value of that project? Do you recall?
Yes, sir, I do. In general, when it's all said and done, with acquisition of the properties, about $200 million.
Wow.
The actual project in the neighborhood of $22 million. So it was land acquisition.
And there was substantial acquisition of lake frontage?
There was. Unfortunately, because the lake was not the prettiest lake in the world, there wasn't that many homes on the lake, but there were a few. And when you did the study and you realize you're raising the lake 2 feet, so if you're putting water on people's property that wasn't on their property before, you have to compensate them for it. So it wasn't just lake frontage property, but when you modeled it, it was actually even several miles off the lake. You might be impacting land, so it involved quite a bit of an acquisition process.
Now, your programs, your administration is supported by ad valorem taxes from property values?
Yes.
Is there any projects that are slated in Polk County or the area near Polk County?
There are, and actually we'll talk about that in a few minutes, I think, when we talk about the Central Florida Water Initiative. I think it'll be a good time to talk about some cool things in the future. Well,
let's move along to Mr. Graff. Bill, can you tell us about the Water Management District that you represent?
Well, actually, our history is not unlike Swift-Mud's, except for we're a little bit older. Huge flooding, 26, 28, devastating hurricanes, killed a lot of people in South Florida. And then in 1947, much of South Florida was underwater. Call was made out to the federal government for some relief. And what happened became known as the Central and Southern Florida Flood Control Project, stretches from Orlando to Florida Bay. And again, just like Swift-Mud, they needed a local agency to oversee this thing, to maintain it, to operate it, and then that gave rise to our predecessor agency, which was the Central and Southern Florida Flood Control Agency, which then in the creation of the modern water management district system in the 70s became known as South Florida Water Management District. So again, very similar, devastating weather events gave rise to our agency. We are the local sponsor of Everglades Restoration, Kissimmee River Restoration, so those partnerships continue with the Corps to this day.
Right, and we know that your two water management districts kind of meet here in Polk County, so I would guess there's opportunities throughout the state where that's the same thing.
Oh, yes.
And so, like what we're going to talk about a little bit later with the Central Florida Water Initiative, there's that collaboration between water management districts and other agencies, I'm sure.
Yeah, and maybe for the viewers, just to explain why it is. In fact, at one point, you even had St. John's in Polk County.
Right.
But if you think about the ridge, US 27, obviously a high point, and if a raindrop hits the east side of it, chances are it's going to flow off over to the Kissimmee Basin. If it lands on the west side, Peace River, Withlacoochee, so into the Swift-Mud District. So that's in essence why you have two water management districts. They're based on surface water boundaries. If a land surface ultimately drains to the Everglades, chances are it's in the South Florida Water Management District.
So the watershed typically determines the water management district boundary?
Correct. Yes. So yeah, that east side of the county. Now we don't have, we maybe have a couple of neighborhoods from Frostproof, but essentially we have no local or city government jurisdictions within the South Florida Water Management District that are within Polk County. But of course we have that eastern edge of, and I probably shouldn't say this, but as we say, Danny's got the people, we've got the cows. So
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so long as you're keeping them all happy.
Yes.
So typically you're saying the boundaries are drawn according to geographic or topographic features.
Yeah, yeah, surface water boundaries or basin boundaries, but yeah, topographic is a good way to put it.
And again, you guys started as flood protection.
Correct.
I guess you've been successful mitigating flooding conditions, and that's allowed you obviously to take on, other areas of improvements. We discussed water quality with the Lake Hancock project.
Yeah, and it's again very similar. Obviously, in the 40s, 50s, flood protection was key and very important to a growing community, growing state. And then over time, with, like you say, the Clean Water Act, the state of Florida voters actually saw some of their surface water becoming degraded, polluted, and voted to create the modern system water management district. So that's when we became South Florida Water Management District. St. John's River Water Management District was created then, as was the Suwannee District and Northwest.
Now, were there any notable projects recently that your management district completed in Polk County?
Well, probably the biggest would be the Kissimmee River restoration, and I understand much of that is in Highlands and Okeechobee counties, but the Kissimmee chain of lakes would certainly be, is the headwaters of the Kissimmee River, and a lot of land acquisition in around Lake Kissimmee, Hatchnahaw, Cypress, largely because when they modeled the needs for a restored river, they came to the conclusion we needed more water. So in essence, about 60,000 acres was purchased around those lakes so that Cypress, Hatchnahaw, Kissimmee, and Tiger could rise an additional 1.5 feet. And then we would be able to continuously, during normal times, during normal rainfall times, feed water to the Kissimmee River. So that's probably the biggest project we have in eastern Polk
And that's
County.
ongoing
That's
today.
ongoing. Ironically, it started my first day on the job, not that I had anything to do with it, but June 5th, 1999 is when we started backfilling the channelized Kissimmee River. The land acquisition, of course, had occurred earlier in the 90s, but yes, that's ongoing with an expectation of completion around 2019.
Well, we've discussed some of the past and the ongoing, the present projects. Let's kind of turn our attention to the future water management district projects, and we mentioned the Central Florida Water Initiative. Lynette, can you give us an overview of that project?
Yeah, sure. Kind of like roads, water does not see boundaries, and so historically, water management districts have done their business individually. And so the Central Florida Water Initiative brought these 3 water management districts together to say, how can we work collaboratively together to address some of the issues that our region is facing? And they brought in our organization, TRISEC, to really help with the communication as we get to the next steps in the process, communicating out to outreach to governments and the business sector, and helping them understand, A, what the problem is, and B, what the solutions are, and getting their input onto those solutions so that it's not just another solution being handed to them, but that they're a part of the process. So we look at it holistically.
Right, and we were discussing collaboration earlier. So it involves SwiftMud and the South Florida Water Management District, as well as the St. John's Water Management District. So obviously this is a project of regional importance.
Right.
So I would guess your educational outreach involves jurisdictional entities as well as the public.
Right. So what we're in the process of doing at TRISEC right now, in collaboration with the 3 water management districts, identifying who we need to meet with, who needs to be aware of what the next steps are for our region. The solutions plan is coming out in the next few weeks. And so we need some feedback on that. So we know that we want to reach out to business owners, agricultural businesses, environmental groups, people who have a very vested interest in our water in our region, as well as other business owners. We want to reach out to chambers of commerce and help with the outreach in that way as well. And then, of course, to your point, the governmental entities need to have a voice in this as well, because they all have their public utilities that will draw from this as well. So we want to make sure that everybody has had an opportunity to hear what the next steps for our region are and be able to give some comment to that, make sure that they're part of that process.
Let's take a step back just for a moment. What was the level of participation of local governments with the Central Florida Water Initiative?
I'm fairly new to this process, so I might allow either Bill or Danny
Well,
to
perhaps
answer that
Danny
question.
can speak to that.
Well, you know, this started as several years ago as a Central Florida coordination area, and it has grown into the Central Florida Water Initiative. So as we are today, it covers Seminole, Lake, Osceola, Orange, and Polk counties. And what we have determined, we being the 3 water management districts in partnership with Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, along with about 97 public utilities in those 5 counties, that in the next 30 years, there's a need for about 1.1 billion gallons of water to be used. Currently, there's about 800 million gallons being used in that 5-county area. Through modeling, through working together, all these agencies working together, we think we can get to 850 million gallons a day without any environmental concerns that aren't already there. What can we do past 850? How are we going to get another 150 million gallons or 200 million gallons of water? So as Lynette said, we're in that solutions phase. So we've determined the need, we've determined where we are today, working with these utilities, working with the different agencies, and then we've created a solutions team that has come up with ideas, projects to move forward. And that's where TRISECT is really coming in and helping us as well to reach out again to these local governments who've been reached out in the past, but now we have solutions. We were telling them before the problem, the issue. Now we want to reach out and say what we think the solutions are. And some of those solutions are quite large and quite big.
And that's leading me to my next question. Have you identified potential or proposed projects that you think are going to help in this effort?
Yeah, I mean, there's literally hundreds of potential projects, but generally speaking, surface water, looking at perhaps eastern part of the state, the St. Johns River. Danny had already mentioned reuse, expanding the ability to reuse our wastewater for beneficial uses such as irrigation or industrial cooling, even to the point of trying to mitigate for some of these impacts. So you draw down an area, perhaps you can take stormwater, clean up that stormwater and use it as a rehydration tool. Or over in West Orange, West Osceola County, they have what are known as rapid infiltration basins. You can put very high quality treated wastewater in those and it will actually resupply the Floridan aquifer. So there's just a whole myriad of options. To get to the amount of water we may need in 2035, the price tag is hovering right around $3 billion. So that's also a challenge. You know, how is that going to happen? Is that going to be something that is going to be a government responsibility? Is that going to be a ratepayer responsibility? Is that going to be some, collection thereof? So those are the issues pretty much that the solutions team is struggling with or wrestling with right now.
I would guess conservation would still be a big component to any future plan?
Conservation is huge, and it's the best way to get new water, and really the cheapest way. Turn the water off. You know, as a homeowner, you can use less water outside. You don't need to water your grass every day. As simple as turning your water off when you brush your teeth, running the dishwasher when it's full and not just half full. We all can do our part. And conservation is identified in our solutions as being a very major part of new water supply. Every drop the homeowner doesn't use is another drop for a new homeowner or a new development or whatever the case may be. But what may have one, as far as level of government or level of participation, in Polk County specifically, our districts, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, we're working diligently with our 17 municipalities and the county in working to create a regional type entity. Because there are 17 municipalities in the county and all vying for the same aquifer water, all sticking a straw in the ground. We think collectively if they come together, work together, distribute the water throughout the county instead of just fighting over not that they do, but fighting over the individual water, which could happen in the future, we can avoid that. So we're working very diligently, and I think with the CFWI and with TRISECT to communicate that message. There's safety in numbers. We need to work together. The districts are doing it. Let's let the cities do it too.
Is there any land development policy recommendations as part of the Central Florida Water Initiative?
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. Obviously, we have the home lawn irrigation restrictions that are in place. going towards something that's a water star type of picture where new development would have specific types of fixtures. You know, you would have a 2-gallon a minute type of shower head. You'd have specific kind of appliances in the home, trying to completely, you know, lower the per capita use. I think all told, I think the plan looks to save something on the order of 35 million gallons a day just through tweaking some of these things. You know, we as a region have been very good at water conservation. You know, this 800 million gallons a day that Danny talks about essentially has been flat for about the last dozen or more years. So let's just continue that process. And like you say, the water saved is certainly the cheaper water.
Well, that's encouraging that we're doing pretty well on the conservation front. So, and apparently there's a lot to plan for the future, given the continued development, the continued growth of Florida. So we certainly appreciate you giving us the benefit of your experience and the work that you're undertaking to ensure that we're going to have fresh drinking water for future generations of Floridian. So again, Danny, Lynette, Bill, thank you for joining us today.
Well, Bill, thank you guys. We really appreciate the opportunity to get out there and spread the message as well.
And thank you for having us. You know, a big part of our piece is communication, and so the more people know and are aware of this issue, the better off we're going to be. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Great opportunity to spread this message and hopefully get people involved in the process.
Well, we're certainly glad to give you the forum.
Thank you.
The mission of the Southwest Florida Management District is to manage water and related natural resources to ensure their continued availability while maximizing the benefits to the public. Central to the mission is maintaining the balance between water needs of current and future users while protecting and maintaining water-related natural resources which provide the district with its existing and future water supply. For more information, check them out on the web at What Matters. Water Matters.
Yes,
Water Matters, indeed. Check them out on the web at watermatters.org or give them a call at 863-534-1448.